everyone, and welcome to an insightful new episode of Xpatweb's podcast. My name is Keri Culver. I'm a senior immigration consultant at Xpatweb. And today we are going to be talking about the amended regulations for the remote work visa. Now, we have a couple of podcasts on the remote work visa, but on the 9th of October 2024, the Department of Home Affairs amended the regulations. Let's take a look at what the remote work visa is. The remote work visa was initially introduced in early 2024, and it aims to bring in foreign exchange. On the basis of what the remote work visa is, it is to bring in foreign funds. If we look at who the remote work visa is aimed at, it is really looking at bringing foreign-sourced income into South Africa, and that really translates when we look at the requirements. In terms of the amended regulations and what these look like, we'll be delving into the quintessential requirements for this visa, as well as some amended regulations when it comes to tax compliance, which is extremely important to understand before taking the leap and applying for South Africa's remote work visa. So let's start by diving into the requirements of the remote work visa based on the amended regulations from the 9th of October. The initial regulation stated that the applicant needs to earn an annual salary of at least 1 million rand, and that has now been dropped to an annual salary of just above 650,000 rand, meaning that applicants coming into South Africa on the remote work visa need to earn no less than 650,000 rand gross salary in order to qualify for this visa. The second sort of qualification criteria is that applicants must be employed by a foreign employer. So this visa is not allowing foreign nationals to come into South Africa and start working for South African employers and take jobs away from South Africans. This visa is strictly for people who are employed abroad and have the opportunity to work remotely. A very, very important factor of this visa. There was a lot of contention when the visa was initially introduced that it would encourage foreign nationals to come into South Africa and take South African jobs. And that is not at all what this visa is aimed at doing. So looking at the requirements, the financial and the employment requirements are really the cornerstone of this visa application. If an applicant does not earn in excess of 650,000 rand annually and is employed by a foreign entity, they do not qualify for the remote work visa. Moving on to tax compliance, there has been a lot of talk about tax compliance and requirements for the remote work visa. We suspect that is why the initial regulations were withdrawn, to allow for the DHA to really consult with the South African Revenue Service, which is SARS, in terms of these applicants coming into the country on a remote work visa. The Department of Home Affairs have noted 2 tax compliance requirements. Now, applicants will fall into one or the other. So if we look deeper into those, tax compliance number 1 is that if the applicant is from a country or is a resident of a country that has a DTA, which is a double taxation agreement with South Africa, that applicant will not need to register with the South African Revenue Service immediately. The registration with SARS, if there is a DTA in place, is only if the applicant is present in South Africa for longer than 183 days during a 12-month period. So important to note that an applicant will only be required to register with SARS if they are spending more than 180 days in a 12-month period within South Africa. Compliance number 2, which is the second tax requirement, is that if the recipient of the visa, so the applicant themselves, is from a country that does not have a DTA with South Africa, that person will then be required to register with SARS immediately. again, some very important tax considerations need to be made and looked at before applying for your remote work visa. We are really excited for the introduction of this visa. We think it's fantastic for the economy. If we look at the visa laterally, it is basically foreign nationals coming into South Africa to spend their dollars and pounds and euros in South Africa, which boosts the economies. If we look at where these applicants are going and where foreign nationals seem to be drawn to within South Africa, we're looking at the larger metropolitan cities, Cape Town, Johannesburg, Durban. But what we are seeing an increase of is applicants moving to smaller coastal towns, which has really had a boom in some of these towns' economies. If we look at places like George, Knysna, specifically along that coastline, there is an influx of foreign nationals, high net worth foreign nationals coming into South Africa and spending, these foreign currencies in South Africa. So again, looking at what the remote work visa means for South Africa and South Africans, we are really excited for this program. If we look at the successes from other countries like Canada, who also offer a remote work visa option, they refer to it as the digital nomad visa. They have seen great successes. South Africa is joining an elite club of about 50 other countries that offer a remote work visa / digital nomad visa option. And we are really excited to see the potential that this visa could have for South Africa. That is it on the amended regulations for the remote work visa. I hope that this podcast has been insightful. I hope that you've learned something. If you'd like more information or if you'd like to consult with an immigration professional or tax advisor, please feel free to reach out to us. We look forward to any questions that you may have.